All right, folks, welcome to another episode of NRG Unplugged. My name is Max Kahn, and today I'm joined by Casey Loftman. Casey, how are things going?
Good. How about you?
I'm really good. So we had a very eventful weekend last weekend at the Team Constructed CTQ in Normal, Illinois. Casey and I were both there. He was playing, I was judging. Casey, do you want to tell me a little bit about how that event went on your perspective?
It was absolutely the most fun I've ever had being in the X2 bracket. My team, we started out 0-2, but we hung in there. We ended up running the table to finish 4-2, and we just had a blast the whole day. It was the first time I'd ever gotten a chance to play this constructed format where you have one person on standard, one person on modern, one person on legacy. And it was just so much fun being able to be really involved with your team because, you go to events and you see your friends and you're invested in how they're doing to the extent that you hope that they're doing well. But when it comes to being on a team with them, you're really invested in how they're doing. You really want to see them doing well. You want to be able to collaborate with them and say, no, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should do this instead. Or, hey, help me out. I'm not quite sure what to do here. And you could draw on other people's experience and everything. Overall, just a fantastically fun event. We played the 6 teams we played against. It was a lot of fun playing against all of them. Just seemed like a bunch of really fun people who were having a whole lot of fun the whole time. Didn't run into any of those teams where, they tried to, be like the East German team or something, just intimidate you and stare you down the whole time or anything like that. So overall, like I said, a whole lot of fun, a very well run event. I was expecting a lot more trouble than we had, given that you had 3 formats going on simultaneously, and Modern and Legacy being formats that can very easily just turn into logistical nightmares as, they go 12 minutes past the end of the clock or whatever. But yeah, overall, couldn't have asked for a better event. It was just a ton of fun, and I think that this format is probably going to play a very large role in the future of Magic, especially when it comes to coverage and things like that, because it offers so many more options, so many more interesting things to do while watching coverage, as opposed to, oh, look, it's Mardu vehicles versus Mardu vehicles again. Okay, well, we've also got an interesting modern matchup. We've got an interesting legacy matchup. We can cut back and forth. If, the standard match ends in 7 minutes, we've still got modern and legacy going on, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. One of the things that I didn't really know about Team Constructed going into it that I learned this weekend was the importance of having 3 players that know what they're doing, that have expertise in the format. And I think we saw that with the top 4 of the event and the winners of the event. So the winners of the event were Jeff Hoogland, Kent Ketter, and Matt Bamonte on Legacy, Modern, and Standard, respectively. Ooh. And the crazy thing about it is most people going in were like, yeah, that's the best team in the room. And they were the ones that ended up walking away with the trophy. So what do you think that says about the skill level of a Team Constructed event?
Well, like you said, format experience is huge. I saw a lot of people that I recognize as modern specialists or legacy specialists playing legacy or modern. And that was kind of what it was with our team, too. One of our players, our standard player, actually is Aaron Estrin, is objectively the best player of the 3 of us. He's played on the Pro Tour 4 times, things like that. But he also doesn't play all that much anymore. And he certainly doesn't play Modern Legacy all that much, whereas I play more Modern than he does, and Keith Newyear, our Legacy player, plays more Legacy than either of us do. So it was natural to say, okay, Aaron's on Standard, Casey's on Modern, Keith is on Legacy. And that's what we saw with all the other teams too, where people are saying, okay, hey, I might want to play Legacy, but this teammate of mine is really good at it and really knows the format in and out, so he has to be in that Legacy chair. And then you look at the team, Matt, Kent, and Jeff. One thing that kind of sets them apart is, at the very least, Kent and Jeff, they play basically every format, and they understand all the formats very well. Matt tends to play a little bit more standard, but, he's got a modern 5K win under his belt. He understands the format. So those were 3 guys that, you probably could have shuffled them around in just about any order, and they still would have been a threat to win.
So I think it was a really interesting weekend for the implications of the NRG leaderboard. Matt and Jeff had showed up to a CT earlier this year, but Kent had not. So propelling them from 1 to 6 points now puts them in striking range of being in that top 16 leaderboard, which is fantastic. I'm really excited to see them show up at more CT events in the future. But one of the things that was also interesting from that event is the team of Peter Tragos, Dakota Clark, and Alex Javid just completely flopping, I guess, is the only way to describe it.
Max, correction. The last place team.
Yeah, 29th place
Alex
out of
Javid,
29 had 4 CT championships under their belt. Peter Tragos on Legacy has won 2 Legacy CTs. Alex Javid has won a Modern CT, and Dakota Clark has won a Standard CT, and they 0-2 dropped from the event. So I was talking about them. Peter said that his deck kind of pooped on him a little bit, and Dakota got bad draws. But it's fascinating to see that Peter Tragos, who's currently the #1 person on the NRG leaderboard as of that event, just completely flopping. What do you think that has for the implications for the NRG race, with Peter only getting 1 point when he was expected to probably get 2 or 3 this weekend?
First of all, I need to make this disclaimer, which is that you and I both know Peter, Alex, and Dakota very well. We like them very much. We consider them to be excellent Magic players and, very fine people. And now we're going to troll the hell out of them. Because, look, they finished last, all right? Which is such a shocking occurrence that, we can't really not make fun of them for it. Because how many times are we going to have a chance to make fun of them for this? They don't do this. But to your point, yeah, I mean, Peter gets 1 point, and all of a sudden, things are a little bit tighter. He's got Chris Smith kind of right on his heels anyway. And as we know, Chris is a threat to pop up and win a CT at any point, especially, as we have Modern coming up this weekend. But it's going to be really fun watching this MVP race develop, because I don't think that anybody's going to be able to run away and hide with it. I don't think that anybody's going to be able to say, okay, we've got 3 of these things left, and I don't even have to bother to show up because I'm up by 40 points in the MVP race or anything like that. So I think it adds another fun little element to this. It gives people an incentive to show up to CTs that maybe they wouldn't necessarily have come to before. Gives them an incentive to play different formats that maybe they wouldn't have before. Peter's already got his spot locked in, and we know that he loves this particular Legacy deck that he's got. But as far as Modern goes, I think he's a little less keen on the format. So maybe he wouldn't necessarily show up to all the Modern CTs. Well, now he's going to, because you're basically talking about, $300-400 being on the line next year when you're talking about the entry fees.
Right, and there's no Will Hockman in the race this year, where Will Hockman had such a commanding lead last year that it was like the September, the October CT, and even if second place won both of those CTs, or came in second place in both those CTs, Will still would have won the MVP if there was one last year. And I think this year the race is a lot tighter, and people are much more focused on showing up to the CTs after they qualify.
Right, and the addition of 10 points for the winner helps too. Because that adds another element where all of a sudden, if somebody to throw a name out there, John Graham, he's in the running for this. If he spikes one of these things and picks up those 10 points, all of a sudden, he's right there. And, all it would take is, say for Peter to bomb out, and we all know that never happens. Sorry, Peter. But yeah, it really, you can have these big swings. And like you said, I don't think anybody's going to be able to say, I have this thing completely locked up.
Well, John Graham is currently first place on the leaderboard of the people who currently aren't qualified for the championship already. Right. He's currently the first person that would get the at-large bid. Second place is Justin Brickman. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Justin Brickman at the CTQ this weekend in Normal, Illinois. Kind of trolling him a little bit like we were to Peter, but Brickman came down with me Friday night. He was really excited to play at the event, hopefully gain some ground on the MVP race, maybe slide into 3rd or 4th place overall. He's in 5th right now. But his team did not end up showing up to the tournament. So Justin Brickman travels all the way down to Normal, Illinois, and earns 0 points on the weekend.
He's another one of these guys that just kind of keeps lurking around, just putting up solid finish after solid finish. And again, if he has another finalist run, or if he wins one of these things, then hey, he's right there in the MVP race again. So there's no, at this point, it doesn't even seem feasible to me that, you know, Peter's going to win the next 3 CTs, you know, because that's a really hard thing to do. So I don't think that you're going to see, like you said, I don't think you're going to see a repeat of last year where Will was way out in front of everybody and everybody else is, you know, playing for second place metaphorically. You know, John's right there, Justin's right there. You got guys like, you know, Alexander Hamilton, Tommy Tomsovich that aren't very far back. And, you know, one really hot run gets them right there. You know, all of a sudden, you know, Hoogland and Beaumonte have got enough points that maybe it makes sense for them to start coming up. You know, Katter, maybe he comes up for a couple of these things. You know, so yeah, it just does add a whole other element where it not only makes it worth it for somebody to say, hey, maybe I can qualify for this championship at the end of the year, but hey, maybe I can qualify to play all these things for free next year.
Yeah, that's a huge incentive for the players this year. Again, whoever is on top of the leaderboard at the end of 2017 will be named the Nerd Rage Gaming MVP, Most Valuable Player, and they will earn free entry into every single CT and CT Plus event in 2018. So that's like $300 worth of value there. So those are the people that you currently see on the top 16 leaderboard right now that are going to be vying for that for the next 9 months, and I'm really excited to see it unfold. All right, so if you've been paying any attention to Magic over the last couple days, you will have noticed the Amonkhet Invocations, which is the masterpiece for this block here. And they've stirred up quite the strong opinions in the community. Casey, do you want to give this one a go?
You know, I'm going to put it this way. Where I come from, we would say that these things are so ugly, you'd have to tie a pork chop to them to get a dog to play with them. Obviously, I don't like them. Let me be a little bit more specific. You know, I look at these, and the art on them is fantastic. And, you know, I look at it. But the overall design is just such a mess. There's so much going on. It's so cluttered. It's just, you know, stuff just piled on top of each other. And, you know, I think about this from a spectator or a judge perspective. You know, if you walk past the table and there's like a consecrated Sphinx in play, are you going to be able to tell that? I mean, they're just a mess. And, you know, one thing that gets me about this is, you know, I think one of the reasons that Magic has been able to be so successful is that, you know, the cards themselves are so accessible. You know, you look at a Magic card, you know, the art is always the point of entry. You can always tell what's going on. You can always tell what the mana cost is. You can always tell what the card is supposed to do. You know, power and toughness is nice and clear and easy to read. And then you get these, and there's just so many things on the card. How do you put that many things on a small rectangle of cardboard? And, you know, I really hope that I'm wrong because I'm looking at them on a screen instead of seeing them in person, but I don't think I am. There's just this jumbled mess of stuff on there, and I don't get it. I just don't get it, because I know that Wizards, you know, has people who are capable of really good, clean, accessible designs, and this is it's just awful.
So my opinions aren't actually as strong as yours. I think that obviously this looks like it wasn't a final version, and they could have gone through a few more weeks or days of edits just to make it look a little bit cleaner, but this is where we're at. I think that although messy, the hieroglyphics in the titles and the text box and the whole border makes it feel like Amonkhet, which I can appreciate. And I'm going to be getting some of these for my cube. I think there's 4 of them that were previously mythic. So Dark Ritual and Wrath of God and Force of Will and Consecrated Sphinx are all going to be going into the cube. But I'm actually excited to play with these. At first, I was kind of off of them. They didn't look great. But Trick Jarrett, who's one of the community people at Wizards, posted a video about it. And I got to see the foiling process, not in person, but on the video. And I am less upset than I was 24 hours ago, for sure.
Well, and, you know, you mentioned the things that you know, the hieroglyphics and things like that. You know, all of that stuff is neat, but it's just overkill in every aspect of it. You know, it's too many hieroglyphics crammed into the name line. You know, take 2 out on each side and space it out, air it out a little bit. You know, it's too many things on the border. You know, take a couple of those things off. Let it breathe a little bit. It just feels like they said, okay, here are all these neat things, so let's just cram as many of them as we can onto the card because, hey, if one of them is neat, 12 of them must be neater, right? Well, it doesn't work that way. And again, to give you some perspective here, I mean, I'm someone who's worked with designers and design and layout for, close to 20 years now. And, my thing is always, all right, how do we get people to look at this and be able to tell what's going on? Is it readable? Is it accessible? Can people look at, an image or a magazine cover or a page layout and be drawn into it as opposed to being pushed away from it? And normal Magic cards do that. And the previous masterpieces do that. Even if you don't necessarily like the art, the cards are neat and clean. The border isn't this crazy train wreck of whatever it is on there. And, it draws you in instead of pushing you away. And I feel like the Invocations, my initial reaction is that it's pushing me away. It's making it, hard for me to figure out exactly what's going on in this card. Where am I supposed to look first? What does it do? What's it called? What's its mana cost? And, when somebody who is new to the game looks at these, it's kind of like, what does this card do? I don't know what Daze is. How the heck do I figure out what's going on here?
Yeah, so the design is clearly an issue with these Amonkhet Invocations, but I want to talk a little bit about the card choice. We've got some really cool ones in Wrath of God and Force of Will, but then some questionable choices, stuff like Divert and Loyal Retainers. What do you think about the selection of Invocations, at least for the Amonkhet half, since we don't know the Hour of Devastation half?
I find some of them curious. Was the world really crying out for a premium version of Spell Pierce? Like you said, hey, Consecrated Sphinx, I think fits perfectly in here. Flavor-wise, it's very good. It's a card that people love in Commander and things like that, where they're going to want a really snazzy version of it. Same thing with the Aven Mind Sensor to a certain extent. It's something that can work. But yeah, Divert, I don't know.
I did not know that card existed until I saw it as an invocation yesterday.
Yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, wait, Divert. So yeah, I don't think that they were all home runs, and I'm not really sure I see the connection on some of them. Okay, Chain Lightning makes perfect sense. It's a cool card. It has a feel where it could be something that some sort of wrathful pharaoh has mastered or something like that. That makes perfect sense in this context. But even like Counterbalance, does Counterbalance really make sense here?
I think the weirdest inclusion
I think people
for
want
me,
a cool version of it, but it's like two guys on a seesaw.
I think the weirdest inclusion for me is Aggravated Assault.
Yeah, that one's a little bit odd. I could have actually, not that it would have worked in Kaladesh block because it was artifacts, but that's something that I think would have made sense there. Mm-hmm. Like a really aggressive kind of swarming attacking thing. It seems to kind of fit the flavor there a little bit more. You think about it. Okay, Aggravated Assault with a bunch of gremlins. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But on Amonkhet, I don't really know. And part of it may be that we don't really have a sense of the set, so we can't really put these into context. Where, hey, yeah, okay, it makes a lot more sense now that Daze is in here. It makes a lot more sense that Divert is in here, and Force of Will, and Spell Pierce, because that's one of the other things. It's a very heavy on blue special run. Mm-hmm. So
there's not a single mono green card in the entire run.
Meant to be fitting thematically, or if they just decided that, hey, let's just jam a bunch of blue cards in there and call it that. I mean, we got Stifle in here.
We have Cryptic Command.
Okay, Cryptic Command, yeah. Consecrated Sphinx. So yeah, it's very heavy on blue. Some interesting choices. Some terrible design. Sounds like a winner to me, Max. Let's go.
Sounds like Magic the Gathering. All right, so we're going to move on to our last segment here. After nailing down these Amonkhet Invocations, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Nerd Rage Gaming Special, and we are going to be announcing something exclusive on today's episode that I haven't even told Casey about yet. So this is going
I
to
love
be
exclusives,
really fun.
except for when I'm excluded from them.
All right, so the first one that we're going to talk about is on April 1st, which is just about 3 days now from the recording of this video, is our Modern CT Plus, which has already sold out. It sold out on a Tuesday night before the event. Casey, you're not going to be able to make it this weekend, but I'm sure you'll be watching coverage from home with Andrew Donnelly and Ben Miney. We're giving away $1,000 and a case of Modern Masters 2017 to the 99 players that are going to be playing this weekend. Casey, what are you looking for in terms of winning the event or even shaking up the leaderboard this weekend?
Well, I guess my big question is Chris Smith going to be able to make it? And if so, he'll probably win. No. No, I mean, obviously, I think pretty highly of Chris as a modern player, and he's on Abs and Company, which is always a contender at an event like this because it's kind of good against everything. You don't have to worry about getting sucker punched by all of a sudden playing against, 3 straight 8-rack decks or something like that. But the thing about Modern, as I've noticed, being able to play it several times after the ban, is it just seems like a much more balanced format now. And I think people are starting to react to that more with their deck building choices. I think you're having, you're always going to have burn and infect and things like that where, the point is just to kill you on turn 3 or turn 4 or whatever. But the mid-range decks are starting to settle into being a little more mid-rangey. They aren't just like, okay, got to be able to deal with the first 3 turns of aggro and then maybe win with the Tarmogoyf on turn 12 or something like that. They're actually, settling back into that old Jund role of, okay, a lot of hand disruptions, some powerful creatures, get us both into top deck mode, and eventually I'm going to top deck, a Siege Rhino or a Thragtusk or something like that, and it's going to take the game over. But then, on the flip side, you have Death Shadow aggro. So, but, I think Combo's making a little bit of a comeback. Saw a good bit of it at the CTQ. Personally, I was playing Scape Shift. Played against Ad Nauseam. Played against Bant Eldrazi, which isn't really a combo deck, but again, kind of fits that mid-range style where, they can brawl a little bit, but also play a long game. So I think that the format is really healthy right now. I think that the banning's really helped. I think the printing of Fatal Push helped immensely. It keeps a lot of things in check. I'm actually even splashing in my Scape Shift deck for it, simply because it's so good against so many things. I mean, I killed a Tarmogoyf with it in round 6. My opponent about passed out because he didn't see it coming at all, which, I can't blame him, but still, hey, die Tarmogoyf. There you go. 1 mana, Tarmogoyf's dead. Okay, rant aside, I think that what we're going to see here is, once again, format knowledge and technical play really being rewarded. And it's good to see Modern getting back to that after a stretch of, okay, did Dredge just go nuts on you on turn 3? Did Infect just cast a Cataxian Probe and find out that they can kill you on turn 2? So it's nice to see the format in a healthier place. I hope that it continues going that way. And, right now, I think it's a really fun format, a really challenging format, and I really wish I could play it this weekend.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching everybody play it this weekend. If you're able to make it, come on down, get on that wait list, because we are already sold out for that event, which is fantastic, by the way. Thank you so much for selling us out 5 days before the event on a Tuesday night. That's awesome. I'm really excited for that. If you can't make it down, feel free to tune into our Twitch stream at twitch.tv/NerdRageGaming Live with coverage by NRG Druid Andrew Donnelly and the 2016 Nerd Rage Gaming Champion Ben Miney. They'll be bringing you all 10 rounds of action from the event. So look forward to that. Following that event, we've got April 29th. Evanston Games and Cafe in Evanston, Illinois is hosting a CTQ modern format with the booster pack payout model, 4 boosters per person in the player. And don't forget these exclusive CTQ winners playmats that I have.
How'd you get one of those?
I have so mischievingly stole from Norm. So I've got one of those. And then,
he's probably going to watch this, right?
Oh, he knows I took it. Don't worry about that.
Okay, all right. Just making sure, because I don't want to be an accessory.
So we've got that CTQ playmat and the free entry into the CT for the winner. So be sure to come on down to Evanston Games and Cafe for Modern on April 29th. That event caps at 50 players, so be sure to pre-register for that one because I'm expecting that one will sell out as well. Now here's the announcement. We've got May 6th. We've got another CTQ. This one hosted in the Quad Cities in Iowa. And that's going to be a modern event with $500 cash in the prize pool. So the weekend right after the CTQ in Evanston, we've got another modern CTQ in the Quad Cities. So be sure to go on down to Trademart. They'll be hosting that one, and that'll be a fun event as well. A lot of shakeups to the leaderboard right around the change from April to May. And then finally, at the end of May, we're doing a Legacy CT for $1,000 in cash prizes. That one's May 27th, the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. So be sure to come on down for all of these events in April and May, and they will be 4 chances for you to rise up on that Nerd Rage Gaming leaderboard.
Yeah, and as you may have noticed, the CTQs and the CTs, very heavy on modern and legacy. And, yes, that is intentional. We understand that standard is a source of frustration right now. So, hey, come on out and play some modern and legacy. At least you've got one place to find it.
Absolutely. And if you or your store is interested in hosting a CTQ, we love to talk to you. Email info@nerdragegaming.com or go to the articles.nerdragegaming.com website for more information about the CTQ series, or just email me. You can find me on Twitter. I'll give you my email address. All that stuff. Please, we'd love to get you involved in the Nerd Rage Gaming Championship Series. Casey, is there anything else you want to talk about before we sign out for today?
The only other thing that comes to mind is just to remind everybody that, hey, the CTQs, they're a great chance to, play some reasonably high-level Magic, get some at-large points. And if you have a chance to play Team Constructed and you've never done it before, do it. It's just so much fun.
Absolutely. We're looking to add a lot more Team Constructed to the Nerd Rage Gaming Series this year, hopefully host a few more CTQs, and I hear that a Team Constructed CT is in the works for 2018 with invites going to all 3 members of the winning team, so stay tuned for that. Probably 12 months from now we'll be doing one of those, but just so you know, we're in the works. We love Team Constructed, and we're excited to host it at the Nerd Rage Gaming Championship Series. Well, that's all I've got for today. For Casey Loftman, I've been Max Kahn, signing off from another episode of NRG Unplugged. We'll see you next time.